And, three. Lekam Shri Guru Shri Yudapadakam, Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha, Shri Rupam Sadhujatam Sargana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam, Sadvaitam Savadhutam Pariyam Vishnu Chaitanya Devam, Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sargana Shri Vishnathanvitamscha, Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gauravana Pacharani Nirvishesha Shunyati Paschatya Desha Tarini, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Guru Nityananda Shri Advaita Vedanta Shri Vasani Gaur Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Sarvashastra Piyusha Sarvaveda Sakala Sarvasiddhanta Ratnadhya Sarvalokaika Dakara Sarvabhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu Vidvan Tojitaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita Paramananda Pathaya Premavashyakshirayate Sarvada Sarvasevya Shri Krishna Namastume Madheka Bandho Mat Sangin Madguru Man Mahadhana Manistarika Madbhagya Madananda Namaste Marhatu Sadhutadayan Atini Chochatakara Hanumunji Kadachin Mam Premnahit Kantayospura Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. Continuing from Srila Jiva Goswami's commentary, then I'll come back here. अथ पादमोक्ता दशाप्यपराधाः परित्याज्य यथा सनत्कुमार वाक्यम्. The 10 offenses to the holy names should be abandoned. They are enlisted in the following statement. They are noted in the following statement of Sanat Kumar. Sanat Kumar makes a reference to these 10 offenses. Sarvaparad Hridapi Muchyate Harisamshreyath Harerapyaparaadhan Yahruyadvipadapaam Savaha Namashraya Kadachit Syad Taratyeva Sanamataha Namnopi Sarvasukudo Yaparadhat Patatyavaha. But even if one commits all kinds of offenses, he is liberated if he takes shelter of Lord Hari. But one who commits offenses to Lord Hari is two-legged animal. If one takes shelter of the holy name of Lord Hari, then the holy name himself will deliver him. If one commits offenses to the holy name, who is the well-wisher for everyone, then certainly he will fall down. Aparadascha ite, and these are the offenses. Actually, in the original Padma Purana text, the offenses come first, and then these observations come. Satam nindanam parama paradam vitanate yatah kyatim yatam achamu sahate tarvigarham. Blasphemy of the saintly devotees brings about the greatest offense to the holy name. It is because of them that the holy name attains dissemination. So how will the holy name tolerate that criticism? Shivasya Sri Vishnorya Iha Gunanamadi Sakalam Dhiya Bhinnam Pashyet Sakalu Na Harinama Tagaraha. That person who considers Shiva to be independent, Shiva's qualities, name, and so on, and everything about him to be independent of Sri Vishnu's qualities, holy names, and so on, is indeed an offender unto the holy name of Lord Hari. Guru Ravagya, neglect or insult of the spiritual master. Shruti Shastra Nindanam, blasphemy of the Shruti scriptures. Yatharthvadaha, or to consider that the glories of chanting the holy name is an exaggeration in the scriptures. Harinamni kalpanam, to imagine some, to have a, to work out a mundane interpretation of the holy name of Lord Hari. Namno baladyasi hi papu buddhir na vidyate tasya yamahi shuddhi. That person who has the conception that he can commit sinful activities on the strength of the holy name, for that person, there is no purification through any regulation. Dharma vrata tyaga kutadi sarvashubha kriya samyam api pramadaha. To consider the chanting of the holy name to be equal to the activities of uh, ordinary dharma, the vratas, renunciation, fire sacrifices, and all such auspicious activities is also a mistake. Pramadaha also indicates that to be inattentive to the chanting is an offense. Ashraddha dhane vimukhe pyashinvati yaschopadesha shivanamaparadhaha. It is an offense unto the auspicious holy name to instruct a person who does not have faith, respect, or value, who is averse to the process of chanting the holy names, and who is not listening to the instructions pertaining to the holy names. Krutvapi nama mahatmya yah priti rahito dhamaha aham mama adi paramo namni sopi aparadha. Even after hearing the glories of the holy name, that person who does not have affection for the holy name, a low-class man, who thinks I and mine, etc., to be the supreme, such a person is also an offender unto the holy name. Atra sarvaparada kriddapi ityado Shri Vishnu Yamala Vakyam api anusanteya. Mama namani lokesmin shraddhaya yastu kirtayet tasyaparadha kotistu kshamamyeva na samshaya. Regarding the first point that was brought out here, that the person has taken shelter of, one who takes shelter of the holy name is believed. There's another statement in Sri Vishnu Yamala Vakya, in Sri Vishnu Yamala, in which it is, in which the Lord says that that person who with faith utters my holy names in this world, I forgive the millions of offenses that he commits. There's no doubt about it. Satam ninda ityanena himsadinam vachana agocharatvam dakshitam. Blasphemy of the saints refers to offenses and other such activities which are unfit for being discussed. Nindadayastu yatha skandhe Sri Markandeya Bhakirata Samvade. And offenses are found in Skanda Purana, in the conversation between Sri Markandeya and Bhagirata. Nindam durvanti ye mudha Vaishnavana Mahatmanam patanti pitruvisthartham Maharaurava Sangite hanti nindanti vaidveshti Vaishnavan nafi nandati krudhyate yatino harsham darshane patanani shat. There are 6 degrading activities. 6 kinds of blasphemies that foolish people can commit towards the Vaishnavas, who are great souls, because of which they fall down, along with their pious forefathers, into the hell known as Maharaurava, by attacking, by criticizing, by hating, by not appreciating Vaishnavas, by being angry, by not becoming delighted upon seeing the Vaishnavas. These are the 6 degrading activities of blasphemy. Anti, Nandanti, Veshti, Abhinandati, Udhyate. Okay. Yati no harsham darshane. The Ninda Shravane bhi dosha hota. Even to hear the blasphemy of the Vaishnavas is a defect. 10.76.26 Nindam Bhagavata Shrinvan Tatparasya Janasya Va Tato Napaiti Yasopi Yatyadha Sukritachyutaha. That person who hears a blasphemy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead or blasphemy of uh, people who are devoted to him and who does not go away from that place, that person also falls down from his pious credits. Tato apakamascha asamarthasya eva. To go away from that place is for one who is incapable of countering, neutralizing that blasphemy. Samarthena tu nindaka jihva chettavya. For a person who is capable, he should cut the tongue of the blasphemer. Tatrapi asamarthanas swapranaparityagopi kartavya. If that is also not uh, in that situation, for a person who is incapable, one can also give up one's own life. One should also give up one's life. Yathoktam Devi, as Devi has said, Bhagavatam 4.4.17. This is her statement that when her husband was criticized. So at that time she said that I'm incapable of dealing with this. So at that time she said this. She said um, it is dharma to give up one's life. Shivasya Shri Vishnorityatra anusandheyam. The expression Shivasya Shri Vishnu should be considered as follows. Truyatepi, as we hear, Yadyad Vibhuti Mat Sattvam Srimad Urjitameva Va Tattadeva Gakshatvam Mama Tejomshya Sambhavam. All the opulences and everything extraordinary that we see should be understood to be the prowess, to be born from a portion of Lord Krishna's prowess. Brahma Bhavoham Api Yasya Kalah Kalayah. 10th canto, 68th chapter, 26th verse, spoken by Lord Balaram. Brahma, Shiva, even I am a portion of his portion. Yatpada nisrata sarit pravarodakena tirthena mursnani kritena Shiva Shivobhut. Shiva became Shiva. Shiva became auspicious when he respectfully held the water that had come from his lotus feet on his head. That is 3.28, 0.22, 2.6.30. Srichami Tanniyuktoham Haro Harati Nadvasha Vishwam Purusha Rupena Paripati Trishakti Trik. Lord Brahma's statement. I am employed by him and therefore I create. Hara destroys because he's under his control. The Lord in the form of the Purushas maintains this world as the controller of the three potencies. Okay, now Jiva Goswami points out that it is one of the offenses to consider Shiva's qualities, names to be independent of Lord Vishnu's qualities and names. So he's already dealt with the point of Shiva's quality being dependent on Lord Vishnu's quality. That means it is only because of Lord Vishnu that Shiva is as glorious as he is. So the evidence was already shown. Now he is quoting from Brahmanda Purana, which is found in Madhvacharya's Brahma Sutra Bhashya, in which it is found that Lord Shiva's names are also coming from Lord Vishnu. Okay, I won't read this whole thing, but it points out that names like Rudra, Ishana, Pinaki, Shiva, Krittivasa, Indra, all these are actually, okay, Brahma, Indra, Virinchi, these are all names of Lord Shiva or Indra or Lord Brahma. But originally, these are all names of Lord Vishnu. Evam nanavidhe shabdeir ekaiva trivikrama vedeshu cha puraneshu giyate purushottama. It's actually Purushottama, Lord Trivikrama, who is described through all of these names in the Vedas and the Puranas. But okay, we'll see what then. What then? How can they also refer to these particular deities? Vamani in the Vamana Purana. नतु नारायणादीनां नाम्नाम् अन्यत्र संशयः अन्यनाम्नां गतिर्विष्णुरेक एव प्रकीर्तितः. But names such as Narayana are not anybody else's name. These names only refer to Lord Vishnu. Skanda Purana. Rite Narayana Adini Namani Purushottamah Adadanyatra Bhagavan Rajevar Varte Swakam Pura. 1 minute. Okay. Uh, Other than names such as Narayana, uh, there are, okay, Bhagavan Purushottama gave away names other than names such as Narayana to these deities. He has licensed them to use it. Brahme in Brahma Purana, names like uh, same thing. Lord Keshava has given away names to Brahma and Shiva. Katananda, Padmabhu. To Shiva, he gave names like Ugra, Bhasmadhara, Nagna, Kapali. तदेवं श्री विष्णु सर्वात्मकत्वेन प्रसिद्धत्वात् तस्मात् सकाशात् शिवस्य गुणनामादिकं भिन्नं शक्त्यंतर सिद्धम् इति यो धिया विपश्येत् इति अर्थः. So that person who thinks that Shiva's qualities, names, and so on are brought about by some potency which is different from Lord Vishnu's potency, that is an offense. Because it is well known that Sri Vishnu is the soul of all. द्वयोर अभेद तात्पर्येण षष्ठ्यन्तत्वे सति श्री विष्णोश्चेत्यपेक्ष्य च शब्द क्रियेत. He brings out a grammatical point. That Radhanya Vivakshe Shri Shabdascha Tatraiva Dattah. And Shri is brought about, is used only for Vishnu in this context. It is not used for Shiva here. अतएव शिवनामापराध इति शिवशब्देन मुख्यतया श्री विष्णुरेव प्रतिपादित इति अभिप्रेतम्. Therefore, in this description of Namaparad, we find Lord Vishnu himself referred to as Shiva. Sahasranamadocha Sthanu Shivadi Shabdas Tatheva. And in Lord Vishnu's Sahasranama, there we find him having names like Sthanu, Shiva, and so on. Asa Shruti Shastra Nindaram. To criticize the Shruti scriptures. Yatha Pashandamargena Dattatreya Rishabha Deva Upasakanam Pashandinam. Blasphemy, such as the blasphemy by those on the path of the Pashandis, those who reject Vedic authority, those who worship Dattatreya, Rishabhadeva, and so on. Tatha arthavadah stutimatram idam iti mananam. To think that this is simply some advertisement, a glorification of the holy names is arthavada. Kalpanam tan mahatmya gaunata karanaya gatyantra chintanam. And kalpanam, and the other offense, it refers to thinking of some other way to explain the glory of the holy name in order to minimize its its value. Yathoktam Kaurme Vyasagitaya, as stated in the Vyasagita of Kurma Purana. Devadroha, Gurudroha, Koti Koti Gunadhika, Jnanapavado Nastikyam, Tasman Koti Gunadhikam. To betray a bona fide spiritual master is millions and millions of times worse than betray the Lord. But atheism in the form of false presentation of knowledge is millions of times worse than that. यत्तु श्रुतनाम महात्म्य यापि अजामिलस्य सोहम व्यक्तं पतिष्यामि नरके धृजदारुणे इत्येतद् वाक्यं तत्खलु स्वदौरात्म्य मात्र दृष्ट्या नाम महात्म्य दृष्ट्या तु अग्रे वक्ष्यते तथापि मे दुर्भगस्य इत्यादि द्वयम्. There are also statements made by Ajamila, 6th canto, 2nd chapter, which uh, which can be analyzed. For instance, Ajamila, he says that I will certainly fall into hell. And then later he says that still the Lord has sent his servants to deliver me. When we come to 6th canto, we'll see it. Namno baladiti. यद्यपि भवे नामनो बलेनापि कृतस्य पापस्य तेन नाम्ना क्षयः तथापि येन नाम्नः बलेन परमपुरुषार्थस्वरूपं सच्चिदानन्द सान्द्रं साक्षात् श्री भगवत् चरणारविन्दं साधयितुं प्रवृत्तः तेनैव परम घृणास्पदं पापविषयं साधयति इति परम दौरात्म्ये. By the strength of the holy name, one can attain directly the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is concentrated eternity, bliss, and knowledge. It is, in fact, the supreme goal of life. But with that holy name, if one executes sinful activities which are supremely abominable, then this is a condition of extreme degradation. ततः खदर्थयत्येव तं तन्नाम चेति तत् पापकोटि महत्तमस्य अपराधस्य आपातो बाढमेव. अतो यमे बहुभिः यम नियमादिभिः इत प्रायश्चित्तस्य क्रमेण पापाधिकारैर् अनेकैरपि दण्डधरैर्वा कृतदण्डस्य तस्य शुद्ध्यभावयुक्त एव. It is certainly inappropriate that such a person cannot be purified through any amount of rules, regulations, and so on, through any amount of prayashchitta, punishments, and so on. नामापराधयुक्तानाम् इत्यादि वक्ष्यमाण अनुसारेण पुनरपि सतत नामकीर्तन मात्रस्य तत्र प्रायश्चित्तत्वम्, because the proper prayashchitta for such a person, which will be stated now, just in a little while, will be that that person continuously execute chanting of the holy name only. सर्वापराधकृदपि इत्याद्युक्त्यानुसारेण नामापराधयुक्तस्य भगवद्भक्तिमतोऽपि अधः पातलक्षणं भोगनियमाच्च. From this text beginning सर्वापराधकृदपि, it should be understood that even a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, when he becomes connected to offenses to his holy name, it is enjoined as a rule that that person has to experience a fall down. ततः इंद्रस्य अश्वमेधा ह्य भगवद्यजन बलेन वृत्रहत्या प्रवृत्तिस्तु लोकोपद्रव शांतिं तदीय असुरभाव खंडनं च इच्छुना ऋषीणां अंगीकृतत्वात् न दोष इति मंतव्यम्. Indra's uh, killing of Vritra on the strength of worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the Ashwamedha sacrifice, that should not be considered a defect on his part, because uh, he accepted them in order to bring about peace to the world. And because the sages wanted the Asuric attitude to be destroyed. अथ धर्मव्रत त्यागेति धर्मादिभिः साम्य मननमपि प्रमादः. To even consider the chanting of the holy name to be equal to dharma, vrata, tyaga, and so on. These are all different forms of dharma, Vedic dharma. Even to consider that is a mistake. Aparadha bhavati ityartha, which means that it is going to bring about an offense. Ateva cha, therefore, वेदाक्षराणि यावन्ति पठितानि द्विजातिभिः तावन्ति हरिनामानि कीर्तितानि न संशयः. As long as one chants the holy names of Lord Hari, there is no doubt that is as good as reciting the aksharas of the holy name by the twice born. Iti atideshena api namna eva mahatmyam ayati. This only glorifies the holy name through extension. Uktam hi madhuram madhuram etan mangalam mangalanam sakalam niyamavalli satphalam chit swarupam. Then there is another statement in the Padma Purana that this holy name is sweeter than the sweetest, and it is more auspicious than all that is auspicious. It is the great fruit from the creeper of all the Vedic scriptures. It is fully spiritual. Athashi Vishnu Dharma, and in Vishnu Dharma, Rig Vedo I Yajurveda Samavedo Yatharvanaha Atita Stena Yenoktam Haririti Aksharadvayam. That person who recites the two syllables Hari, he has studied the Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and the Atharva Veda. Skande Parvatyuktau, Skanda Purana, Parvati statement, Ma Racho, Ma Yajustata, Ma Sama Patakinchana, Govindeti Hare Nama, Gayam Gayasva Yashaha. Don't recite the Rik mantras, don't recite the Yajur mantras, don't recite the Sama mantra. Just constantly sing the holy names of Lord Hari, such as Govinda, which are meant to be sung. Padme, Padma Purana, P. Ramashtotra Shatanama Stotra, in the Stotra on the 100 names of Sri Rama, 108 names of Sri Rama. Vishnu Rekaika Namaiva Sarva Vedadhikam Matam. Each and every holy name of Lord Vishnu is greater than all the Vedas. Atha Ashraddha Dhane iti Adina Upadeshtur Aparadham Darshayatva Upadeshasya Aha Shrutveti. The ninth offense concerns the offense pertaining to the person who gives instructions on the holy name. The 10th offense is about the offense itself. Yata aham mamadi paramaha ahanta mamatadyati ekata paryena tasmin an adaravan ityartha. That person whose only purport in life, whose only intent in life is to uphold himself and everything that he possesses and so on, and who does not respect the holy name, he is the subject of this 10th offense. Amaikam yasya vachi swarnapathagatam ityadav देह द्रविणादि निमित्तक पाषंड शब्देन च दशापराधा लक्ष्यन्ते पाषंडमयत्वात् तेषाम्. There's a statement um, um, beginning this Namekam Yasya Vachi. There, um, there's a reference to Pashan, the the opinion of the Pashandis, opinion of uh, the Asuras. The 10 offenses are what are referred to there, because the 10 offenses are actually of the nature of the thought process of the Pashandis. They are asuric by nature. Tatha tad vidhanam eva aparadhantaram uktam padma vaishakam ahatme. Avamanya च ये यान्ति भगवत कीर्तनम नराः ते यान्ति नरकम घोरम तेन पापेन कर्मणा. So by uh, criticizing, by insulting the process of glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, men go to terrible hell by that sinful activity. So the Nama Paradas actually take us to hell, even if we are devotees of the Supreme Lord, unless we actually honestly rectify ourselves. Esham cha aparadhanam ananya prayashchitvam eva uktam tatreva. There is no other prayashchitta for this other than the chanting of the holy names. That has been stated here. Nama pradayuktanam namanyeva harantyakam. Avishranta prayuktani tanyeva archa. Those who are engaged in nama paradas, for them, the holy names themselves remove their sin, their offense. When they are chanted ceaselessly, then they bring about the perfection of life also. What is this? Not stuck. Stuck. प्रवृत्तिषु अपराधेतु तत्सन्तोषार्थमेव सन्तत नामकीर्तनादिकं समुचितम्. When one blasphemes the devotees and so on, to satisfy them, one should constantly engage in chanting of the holy names and so on. This is appropriate. Ambarish Charitadau, Tadeka Kshamyatvena Aparadhanam Darshana. This is also understood from Ambarish's life and so on. Uttam cha nama kaumadyam ahad aparadhasya bhoga eva nivartaka tad anugraho va. When one commits an offense to great souls, then the only way that offense can be removed is by experiencing the results of that offense or by the kindness of that great soul. Tasmat agatya antara abhava sadhuktametan nirvidyamananam iti. Because there is no other way, therefore it has been appropriately stated here, current verse of Bhagavatam, etan nirvidyamananam, 2.1.11. Now, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur has also pointed out that this idea that ceaseless chanting of the holy names is blasphemy, is the prayashchitta for the Nama brothers. In Madhurya Kadambini, 3rd chapter, he brings out an analysis of the ways to get rid of reactions to the Nama brothers. So there he says that for each of them, there is actually a way of rectifying them. But sometimes we do not know what offenses we have committed. That is not clear at all. So when it is not clear, then this statement is applicable for them. But if it is clear that I committed this offense, then one should actually seek forgiveness from such Vaishnavas and so on. ननु अत्र शास्त्रे अभिधेया इति अवगम्यते एव. In this scripture, it is understood that bhakti is the abhideya. It is the topic of instruction. तत्रापि भक्त्यांगेषु मध्ये महाराज चक्रवर्तीवत् किमेकं मुख्यत्वेन निर्णीयते. Still, amongst the various items of bhakti, is there any item which is the prime item, like an emperor amongst the great kings? Utraha namanukirtanam iti. Namanukirtanam. Sarveshu bhaktiyangeshu madhye shravanakirtana smarani trini mukhyani. Asmad bharata iti shlokena uktani. Amongst all the different items of bhakti, three items are primary: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, which are noted in the shloka beginning Tasmad Bharata. Teshu Trishu api madhye Kirtanam. Amongst these three, it is Kirtana which is the chief. Kirtana api Nama Leela Gunadi Sambandhini Atrapi Anukirtanam. Swabhakti Anurupa Nama Kirtanam. Nirantara Kirtanam va. Within Kirtana also there is Nama Kirtana, Leela Kirtana, Guna Kirtana, etc. Within that, Nama Kirtana is the one that's at top. Within the different varieties of Nama Kirtana, Anu Kirtanam is at the top, which can refer to engage in the chanting of the holy names that is in line with one's own execution of devotional service. It can also refer to uninterrupted chanting of the holy names. Nirnitam, Purvacharya Rapi. This has been ascertained by the previous acharyas. Na kevalam maya adhuna nirniyate iti. It is not that I am ascertaining it only now. Tenatra pramanam rupashtavyam iti bhava. The implication is, so don't ask me for evidences. Kidrisham. And what is the nature of this chanting? Kuto bhayam iti. Kala desha patra upakarana avishuddhi ashuddhi gata भय अभावस्य का वार्ता भगवत सेवादिकम असहमाना म्लेच्छापि यत्र नैव विप्रतिपद्यन्ते इति भावः. What to speak of considerations of time, place, audience, ingredients, considerations of purity or lack of purity, all the different concerns that we have about them. What to speak of them? Even the mlechas who cannot tolerate service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and so on, even they do not fall into difficulty when they execute these activities of chanting, constant chanting. Kimcha sadhakanam siddhanam cha na atah param adhikam shreyah ityah. There's nothing superior to this process, both for the sadhakas and for the siddhas. Vidyamananam arthan moksha paryanta sarvakamebhyah iti ichhatam iti arthat taneva kaman iti pravishya pindin iti val labhyate tadascha vidyamananam ekanta bhaktanam ichhatam swarga mokshadi kaminam yoginam atmaramanam cha etadevam nirnita. So that person who is trying to attain freedom or detachment from everything, including liberation, those who are ekanta bhaktas, one-pointed devotees, as well as those who are desirous of swarga, moksha and so on, as well as those who are atmaramas, for all of them, this has been ascertained. Yatha yogyam sadhanatvena phalatvena cha iti bhavaha. And that is, of course, appropriate to their practice. They get their results. Okay, we'll get back here. Srila Jiva Goswami instructs that chanting of the holy name of the Lord should be loudly done and it should be performed offenselessly as well as recommended in the Padma Purana. One can deliver himself from the effects of all sins by surrendering himself unto the Lord. One can deliver himself from all offenses at the feet of the Lord by taking shelter of his holy name. But one cannot protect himself if one commits an offense at the feet of the holy name of the Lord. Such offenses are mentioned in the Padma Purana as being 10 in number. The first offense is to vilify the great devotees who have preached about the glories of the Lord. The second offense is to see the holy names of the Lord in terms of worldly distinction. The Lord is the proprietor of all the universes, and therefore he may be known in different places by different names, but that does not in any way qualify the fullness of the Lord. Any nomenclature which is meant for the Supreme Lord is as holy as the others because they are all meant for the Lord. Such holy names are as powerful as the Lord, and there is no bar for anyone in any part of the creation to chant and glorify the Lord by the particular name of the Lord as it is locally understood. They are all auspicious, and one should not distinguish such names of the Lord as material commodities. The third offense is to neglect the orders of the authorized acharyas or spiritual masters. The fourth offense is to vilify scriptures or Vedic knowledge. The fifth offense is to define the holy name of the Lord in terms of one's mundane calculation. The holy name of the Lord is identical with the Lord himself, and one should understand the holy name of the Lord to be non-different from him. The sixth offense is to interpret the holy name. The Lord is not imaginary, nor is this holy name. There are persons with a poor fund of knowledge who think the Lord to be an imagination of the worshipper and therefore think his holy name to be imaginary. The Gita Press people are like this. Such a chanter of the name of the Lord cannot achieve the desired success in the matter of chanting the holy name. The seventh offense is to commit sins intentionally on the strength of the holy name. In the scriptures, it is said that one can be liberated from the effects of all sinful actions simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord. One who takes advantage of this transcendental method and continues to commit sins on the expectation of neutralizing the effects of sins by chanting the holy name of the Lord is the greatest offender at the feet of the holy name. Such an offender cannot purify himself by any recommended method of purification. In other words, one may be a sinful man before chanting the holy name of the Lord, but after taking shelter in the holy name of the Lord and becoming immune, one should strictly restrain oneself from committing sinful acts with the hope that his method of chanting the holy name will give him protection. The eighth offense is to consider the holy name of the Lord and his chanting method to be equal to some material auspicious activity. There are various kinds of good works for material benefits, but the holy name and his chanting are not mere auspicious holy services. Undoubtedly, the holy name is holy service, but he should never be utilized for such purposes. Since the holy name and the Lord are of one and the same kind, one should not try to bring the holy name into the service of mankind. The idea is that the Supreme Lord is the supreme enjoyer. He is no one's servant or order supplier. Similarly, since the holy name of the Lord is identical with the Lord, one should not try to utilize the holy name for one's personal service. The ninth offense is to instruct those who are not interested in chanting the holy name of the Lord about the transcendental nature of the holy name. If such instruction is imparted to an unwilling audience, the act is considered to be an offense at the feet of the holy name. The 10th offense is to become uninterested in the holy name of the Lord, even after hearing of the transcendental nature of the holy name. The effect of chanting the holy name of the Lord is perceived by the chanter as liberation from the conception of false egoism. False egoism is exhibited by thinking oneself to be the enjoyer of the world and thinking everything in the world to be meant for the enjoyment of oneself only. The whole materialistic world is moving under such false egoism of I and mine, but the factual effect of chanting the holy name is to become free from such misconceptions. So the idea is that it is Namanukirtana which is meant to be accepted as the highest process to attain the benefits of karma, jnana, yoga, and bhakti itself. However, all such forms of chanting of the holy name should be free from these 10 offenses because they are simply asuric. These are pashanda activities. Okay, I see something in the chat box. What about Guru Aparad? How should we think about them? Guru Aparad should also be avoided. Also, we hear that without pleasing the Guru, one cannot be successful. How in the case of Ritvik, they are attaining success. What is success? I think ISKCON has overall developed a misconception about success itself. What is success? Success means that we succeed in progressing from Shraddha to Prema, not getting reputation and all these other things. We also had this misconception. And therefore, now Krishna is showing us that these are misconceptions. How to become free from Guru Aparad? We should not commit offenses. If we have committed offenses, we should seek forgiveness and should not continue to engage in such abominable activities. How to become free from 10th offense. For all of this, one should study Harinam Chintamani, which is an elaboration of the previous Acharya's teachings about how to get out of these 10 offenses. The idea is that one should surrender to Krishna. Surrender means the 6 items of surrender. One should surrender to Krishna and one should pray to Krishna to free oneself from the 10 offenses. Then Krishna will certainly help. Mohan Radhapati Prabhu.
I mean, the meaning of Anukirtana, so we read about 2 meanings. One is continuous and one is in the line of execution or devotion service. What is the second meaning, Prabhu? I didn't understand. In the line of execution or devotion service, Anukirtana.
Like we chant
Hare
the
Krishna.
Hare Krishna mantra while referring to Radha Krishna. Similarly, one may chant the Hare Krishna mantra while thinking about Rukmini Krishna, Sitaram, Lakshmi Narayana, and so on. Or one may chant their primary holy names also. Okay, let's go on.
One more question was there.
Okay.
Like in the first offense, we say Satam Ninda. So there, Sri Prabhupada has always translated as to blaspheme those who are engaged in preaching. Like, so what about the other saints who are not engaged in preaching?
No, we should not offend anyone. We should not offend anyone. We should not offend anyone means we should not do activities that from the scriptural perspective is an offense. We should not offend other devotees. That's the point. But specifically, one should not offend those who are properly engaged in the propagation of the holy names. That is the first form.
Yes. Second, one more thing, the second offense, Sri Rupa translates as the second offense is to see the holy names of the Lord in terms of worldly distinction. Means Shiva, like Shiva, Brahma, those things were there. So how this translation? I didn't understand. Shivasya, Vishnu.
He is translating Shivasya as auspicious, as an adjective of Sri Vishnu, it looks like. There are 2 explanations for the second offense. This comes in Harinam Chintamani. One should not distinguish, like for instance, Shiva, Brahma, and all these great souls. Shiva here refers not only to Lord Shiva. It is a general idea. It is an upalakshana. Upalakshana means that this is an indication that not only Shiva's qualities and names are dependent on Lord Shri Vishnu's qualities and names. It refers to everyone lower than him also. It refers to Brahma, refers to all the various demigods. It refers to those who are vibhutis, those who are slightly empowered by him. We should understand that all of their qualities, names, reputation, everything is caused by the sanction of the Supreme Lord. One should not consider that there are some wonderful things in this world which are not brought about by the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Some of these offenses are, you can notice, ideological offenses. Just to think like this is an offense. Some are activities, like to blaspheme the saintly authorities, or to blaspheme, or to neglect the Guru, Guru Ravagya, or to insult the Guru. These are activities. But some are actually simply thought processes, like to think that the scriptural statements about the glories of the holy name to be imagination. This is only a thinking process. But that thinking process itself is a serious offense. It is an asuric activity. So we cannot say that because it is happening in the mind, therefore it's not to be taken seriously. No, it will be taken very seriously. Similarly, to have a philosophical misconception, this is an offense. It is an offense. Mayavada, for instance, is an offense. Okay, let's move on. No, there's something else. How to come out from sleeping while chanting. Sleeping while chanting. Then walk and chant. Okay, text 12. Kim brahmattasya bahubhi parokshayir hayanayiriha varam muhurtam vidittam ghatate shreyase yataha. What is the value of a prolonged life which is wasted, inexperienced by years in this world? Better a moment of full consciousness, because that gives one a start in searching after the supreme interest. Alpameva ayur avashishtam kim aham sadhayayam iti ma ichaha ityaha kim iti trivi. Don't worry, thinking now my lifespan, I only have a very little of my lifespan left. What can I accomplish? With this in mind, Shukadeva Goswami speaks 3 verses, beginning from the current verse. Because that gives one a start in searching after the supreme interest by executing the chanting of the holy names and so on. It is a use of years spent without knowledge that all of this is simply a waste of time. Even one muhurta with knowledge is superior. Because by knowing that, one puts in efforts to attain the supreme interest of his life. Shukadeva Goswami instructed Maharaj Parikshit about the importance of the chanting of the holy name of the Lord by every progressive gentleman. In order to encourage the king, who had only 7 remaining days of life, Shukadeva Goswami asserted that there is no use in living hundreds of years without any knowledge of the problems of life. Better to live for a moment with full consciousness of the supreme interest to be fulfilled. The supreme interest of life is to return home back to God, where life is eternal with full knowledge and bliss. Those who are bewildered by the external features of the material world and are engaged in the animal propensities of the eat, drink, and be merry type of life are simply wasting their lives by the unseen passing away of valuable years. Actually, after some time, we understand that these things are all actually a waste of time, because they don't help us in any eternal sense. We should know in perfect consciousness that human life is bestowed upon the conditioned soul to achieve spiritual success, and the easiest possible procedure to attain this end is to chant the holy name of the Lord. In the previous verse, we have discussed this point to a certain extent, and we may further be enlightened on the different types of offenses committed unto the feet of the holy name. Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhu has quoted many passages from authentic scriptures and has ably supported the statements in the matter of offenses at the feet of the holy name. From the Vishnu Yamala Tantra, Srila Jiva Goswami has proven that one can be liberated from the effects of all sins simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Quoting from the Markandeya Purana, Sri Goswami Ji says that one should neither blaspheme the devotee of the Lord nor indulge in hearing others who are engaged in belittling a devotee of the Lord. The devotee should try to restrict the vilifier by cutting out his tongue, and if one is unable to do so, one should commit suicide rather than hear the blaspheming of the devotee of the Lord. The conclusion is that one should neither hear nor allow vilification. Vilification means blasphemy of a devotee of the Lord. As for distinguishing the Lord's holy name from the names of the demigods, the revealed scriptures disclose, Bhagavad Gita 10.41, that all extraordinarily powerful beings are but parts and parcels of the supreme energetic Lord Krishna. Except for the Lord himself, everyone is subordinate. No one is independent of the Lord. Since no one is more powerful than or equal to the energy of the Supreme Lord, no one's name can be as powerful as that of the Lord. By chanting the Lord's holy name, one can derive all the stipulated energies synchronized from all sources. Therefore, one should not equate the supreme holy name of the Lord with any other name. Brahma, Shiva, or any other powerful God can never be equal to the supreme Lord Vishnu. The powerful holy name of the Lord can certainly deliver one from sinful effects, but one who desires to utilize this transcendental potency of the holy name of the Lord in one's sinister activities is the most degraded person in the world. Such persons are never excused by the Lord or by any agent of the Lord. One should therefore utilize one's life in glorifying the Lord by all means, without any offense. Such activity of life, even for a moment, is never to be compared to a prolonged life of ignorance, like the lives of the tree and other living entities who may live for thousands of years without prosecuting spiritual advancement. 13. Khatvango Rama Rajarshi Yat Ve Yat Tam Ihayushaha Muhurtar Sarvotsrijya Gatavan Abhayam Harim. The saintly king Khatwanga, after being informed that the duration of his life would be only a moment more, at once freed himself from all material activities and took shelter of the supreme safety, the personality of Godhead. Khatwango hi Devapakshe Stitva Daityan Ajayat. Khatwanga, he took the side of the Devas and conquered the Daityas. Tataha Prasannai Devai Varam Rinishwa Ityukte. And when the Devas were satisfied with him, were happy with him, and they asked him, take any boon, Tenautam. He said, Prathamam Tavan Mama Ayu Katyatamiti. Please, first of all, tell me how long my life is. Inform me about my lifespan. Tato Devai Uttam, Tattu Muhurtamatram Asti. Then the Devas told him that you only have one Muhurta left. Tataha Atishigra Vimanena Bhom Agatya. Then in a Vimana, celestial airplane, very quickly he came to earth. Harim Sharanam Gataha. He took shelter of Lord Hari. Yataha Iyam Swargabhumi Rajodhika. Because Swargabhumi is has more of Rajas. Karmabhumi Prithvi. And the place for activities is Prithvi. Khatwanga Ityasya Hikayam Bhuvamagatya Mahavishe Darshanena Chittavikshepa. He came to earth because by seeing exalted sense objects, the mind becomes disturbed. Tathas Ushtimeva Shigram Bhuvam Agatya Harim Sharanam Gata. So he quietly came here. There are similar verses, two more verses like this verse, 9.9.43, 11.23.30. A fully responsible man should always be conscious of the prime duty of the present human form of life. The activities to meet the immediate necessities of material life are not everything. I'll read it out again. The activities to meet the immediate necessities of material life are not everything. One should always be alert in his duty for attainment of the best situation in the next life. One should always be alert in his duty for attainment of the best situation in the next life. Human life is meant for preparing ourselves for that prime duty. Maharaj Khatwanga is mentioned here and as a saintly king, because even within the responsibility of the state management, he was not at all forgetful of the prime duty of life. Such was the case with other Rajarshis, saintly kings like Maharaj Yudhishthir and Maharaj Parikshit. They were all exemplary personalities on account of their being alert in discharging their prime duty. Maharaj Khatwanga was invited by the demigods in the higher planets to fight demons, and as a king, he fought the battles to the full satisfaction of the demigods. The demigods, being fully satisfied with him, wanted to give him some benediction for material enjoyment. But Maharaj Khatwanga, being very much alert to his prime duty, inquired from the demigods about his remaining duration of life. This means that he was not as anxious to accumulate some material benediction from the demigods as he was to prepare himself for the next life. He was informed by the demigods, however, that his life would last only a moment longer. The king at once left the heavenly kingdom, which is always full of material enjoyment of the highest standard, and coming down to this earth, took ultimate shelter of the all-safe personality of God. He was successful in his great attempt and achieved liberation. This attempt, even for a moment, by the saintly king, was successful because he was always alert to his prime duty. The word moment uh, as is a translation of muhurta. Maharaj Parikshit was thus encouraged by the great Shukadeva Goswami, even though he had only 7 days left in his life, to execute the prime duty of hearing the glories of the Lord in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. By the will of the Lord, Maharaj Parikshit instantly met the great Shukadeva Goswami, and the great treasure of spiritual success left by Shukadeva Goswami is nicely mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. 1.2.3 14 तवाप्येतर्हि कौरव्य सप्ताहं जीवितावधिः उपकल्पय तत्सर्वं तावद्यत् साम्परायिकम्. Maharaj Parikshit, now your duration of life is limited to 7 more days. So during this time, you can perform all those rituals which are needed for the best purpose of your next life. Tavatu etarhi api idanim api. Even now you have 7 days left. Tavaditi tavata kalena samparayikam paralaukikam sadhanam sampadaya. यत् पूर्वमिति लङ्घितमर्यादं तक्षकः सप्तमे हनि इति पटुवचनं यच्च इदानीमपि सप्ताहं जीवितावधिः इति श्रीशुकवचनं तदुभयमपि श्रीभगवता एव तत् आगमनस्य शीघ्रघटनया घटते इति ज्ञेयम्. Now suddenly that Brahmin boy had cursed this king who has crossed his boundaries will be bitten on the 7th day by Takshaka. And currently also, Sukadeva Goswami says, you only have 7 more days to live. So from this it is understood that it is Sri Bhagavan himself who worked out this quick process for Parikshit Maharaj. Tat sarvam shravana kirtanadhirupam shrotavyadini rajendra ityadi uktena nyayena nahi atonyah shivah pantha ityadi vakshvani nacha. So you should execute those rituals which are needed for the best purpose of your next life. Those rituals are what? They're nothing but Shravanam, Kirtanam, and so on, which are already indicated in the 2nd verse of this chapter. And it will also be pointed out in text 33 that there's nothing else which is more auspicious than these activities of bhakti. Shukadeva Goswami, after citing the example of Maharaj Khatwanga, who prepared himself for the next life within a very short time, encouraged Maharaj Parikshit by saying that since he still had 7 days at his disposal, he could easily take advantage of the time to prepare himself for the next life. Indirectly, the Goswami told Maharaj Parikshit that he should take shelter of the sound representation of the Lord for the 7 days, still remaining in the duration of his life, and thus get himself liberated. In other words, everyone can best prepare himself for the next life simply by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, as it was recited by Shukadeva Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit. The rituals are not formal, but there are also some favorable conditions which are required to be carried out as instructed hereafter. And in order to execute those activities, there are certain favorable situations which will be very useful. And Shukadeva Goswami will start talking about them now. 15. Antakale tu purusha agate gata sadhvasaha chintyada sanga shastrena spraham dehenu yechatam. At the last stage of one's life, one should be bold enough not to be afraid of death, but one must cut off all attachment to the material body and everything pertaining to it and all desires thereof. Atra vairagim tavadaha. So first of all, Shukadeva Goswami talks about the renunciation and detachment that is required here. Gata sadhvataha mrityubhaya shunyaha sangaha nama anasaktis tena shastrena spraham sukecham. So with the weapon of detachment, one should cut out the desire for happiness, material happiness. Tam deham anu ye putra kalatradayas, teshu api spriham shindyate. One should cut out one's desire for everything connected to one's body, like one's son, one's wife, and so on. Jiva Goswami. What is this? अंतकाले इत्यादि मध्यमं प्रकरणं केषांचित् अन्येषामेव साधनत्वेन ज्ञेयम्. This intermediate section here, this is of relevance for some people as their practice. तत्र म्रियमाणस्य किं कर्तव्यम् इति प्रश्ने, what is the duty of a person who is about to die? This was the question. योगेनैव स्वेच्छया देहं परित्याज्य सुखेनैव ब्रह्मपदं प्रवेष्टुं योगाभ्यास एव कर्तव्य इति आचिक्यासूनां तन्महासतस्थानां तेषांचित् मतम् अष्टाङ्गयोगं स्वमतस्य शुद्ध भक्तियोगस्य पुनरपि द्वितीयाध्यायान्ते वक्तव्यस्य उत्कर्षार्थमाह अंतकाले. So the question that was asked was, what is the duty of a person who is about to die? Now, sitting within that great assembly were some whose opinion was one should execute Ashtanga Yoga. One should execute Ashtanga Yoga in a particular manner. Through that process, one should, by one's own desire, give up one's body, and happily he should execute, happily attain Brahman, impersonal Brahman. In order to do that, one should execute the practices of Ashtanga Yoga. So this is the opinion of a number of, there were some saintly authorities who were sitting in that assembly who were thinking like this. Sukadeva Goswami's own opinion is one should execute pure Bhakti Yoga. And that will be pointed out at the end of the second chapter of this canto as the very best, as being superior to this. So in order to point out that, first of all, he is presenting the process of Ashtanga Yoga, and he is beginning a whole discussion of this, and then he'll point out there's something better than this. Eshu api, one should become free from attachment to the material body, and one should also become free from attachment to one's son, wife, and so on. The foolishness of gross materialism is that people think of making a permanent settlement in this world, although it is a settled fact that one has to give up everything here that has been created by valuable human energy. Great statesmen, scientists, philosophers, etc., who are foolish without any information of the spirit soul, think that this life of a few years is only, this few years only is all in all, and that there is nothing more after death. This poor fund of knowledge, even in the so-called learned circles of the world, is killing the vitality of human energy, and the awful result is being keenly felt. And yet the foolish materialistic men do not care about what is going to happen in the next life. The preliminary instruction in the Bhagavad Gita is that one should know that the present is that the identity of the individual living entity is not lost, even after the end of this present body, which is nothing but an outward dress only. As one changes an old garment, so the individual living being also changes his body. And this change of body is called death. Death is therefore a process of changing the body at the end of the duration of the present life. An intelligent person must be prepared for this and must try to have the best type of body in the next life. The best type of body is a spiritual body, which is obtained by those who go back to the kingdom of God or enter the realm of Brahman. In the second chapter of this canto, this matter will be broadly discussed. But as far as the change of body is concerned, one must prepare now for the next life. Foolish people attach more importance to the present temporary life, and thus the foolish leaders make appeals to the body and the bodily relations. The bodily relations extend not only to this body, but also to family members like wife and children, as well as to society, country, and so many other things which end at the end of life. After death, one forgets everything about the present bodily relations. We have a little experience of this at night when we go to sleep. While sleeping, we forget everything about this body and bodily relation. Although this forgetfulness is a temporary situation for only a few hours. Death is nothing but sleeping for a few months in order to develop another term of bodily engagement, which we are awarded by the law of nature according to our aspiration. Therefore, it is so important to get out of all these attachments, thought processes. Therefore, one has only to change the aspiration during the course of this present body. And for this, there is need of training in the current duration of human life. This training can be begun at any stage of life or even a few seconds before death. But the usual procedure is for one to get the training from very early in life, from the stage of brahmacharya, and gradually progress to grasp the vanaprastha and sannyas orders of life. The institution which gives such training is called Varnashrama Dharma, or the system of Sanatana Dharma, the best procedure for making the human life perfect. One is therefore required to give up the attachment to family or social or political life just at the age of 50 years, if not earlier. And the training in the Vanaprastha and Sannyas ashramas is given for preparation of the next life. Foolish materialists, in the garb of leaders of the people in general, stick to family affairs without attempting to cut off relations with them. And thus they become victims of nature's law and get gross bodies again, according to their work. Such foolish leaders may have some respect from the people at the end of life, but that does not mean that such leaders will be immune to the natural laws, by which everyone is tightly bound by the hands and feet. So what are these questions I notice here in the chat box? What about discussing about devotees who are committing mistakes when we are in management? That is why to be in the management is not the greatest contribution you can offer to Lord Chaitanya's mission. Every now and then you may commit an offense. If it is proper with the right attitude, then Krishna will not consider it an offense. But it is a dicey game. It is walking on a thin rope. How he came in one moment to earth, that moment means muhurta. How he came to earth, they have the celestial technology for all that. Also, how can he surrender in one moment? One moment of the demigods. It seems we neglect our prime duty. How to work on this? Sometimes whatever comes, we simply follow the flow. So we follow the flow, then we'll go wherever the flow leads to. That's all. We have to individually take responsibility for all this. The best thing is therefore that everyone voluntarily give up family relations by transferring the attachment from family, society, country, and everything thereof to the devotion service of the Lord. So to transfer that attachment, we need to be in the right association also. We need to be with like-minded souls. Sajati Ashaye. And if we get those who are affectionate, then that is even better. So 1 star, 2 star. And if we get the opportunity to associate with those who are more advanced than us in every manner in spiritual life, then that is 3 star attachment. Proper attachment. That proper attachment will save us from this improper attachment. One must have a chance for better desires. Otherwise, there is no chance of giving up such morbid desires. Desire is the concomitant factor of the living entity. The living entity is eternal, and therefore its desires, which are natural for a living being, are also eternal. One cannot therefore stop desiring, but the subject matter for desires can be changed. So one must develop the desires for returning home back to Godhead, and automatically the desires for material gain, material honor, and material popularity will diminish in proportion to the development of devotional service. So if we actually cultivate or grow the desire to become sufficiently qualified to return home back to Godhead, to engage in uninterrupted, unmotivated service to Lord Krishna in the spiritual world, then we will lose the desire for material gain, material honor, material popularity. A living being is meant for service activities, and his desires are centered around such a service attitude. Beginning from the top executive head of the state down to the insignificant pauper in the street, all are rendering some sort of service to others. The perfection of such a service attitude is only attained simply by transferring the desire of service from matter to spirit or from Satan to God. 16. Grihat pravrajito, Grihat pravrajito dhira, Punyatirsa jalapluta, Chuchau vivikta asino, Vidhivat kalpitasane. One should leave home and practice self-control. In a sacred place, you should bathe regularly and sit down in a lonely place, duly sanctified. Kimcha grihat pravrajito nirgataha. गृहे स्थितस्य पुनरपि आसक्ति संभवा. One must leave home and become a renunciate. If he were to stay at home, then there is a possibility that he may become reattached. Tatra Ashtanga Yoga Maha. So he presents Ashtanga Yoga. Dhira iti brahmacharyadi yamopalakshanam. The word dhira, self-control. Practice self-control. This refers to the various items of yama, such as brahmacharya and so on. Punyatirtha jalaplutaha. Snanadi niyama upalakshanam. This refers to the items of niyama. This is an indication that one should execute various items of niyama. Asanamaha shuchau iti. Shuchau vivikte asinaha. One should sit in a solitary place on a clean asana. This is asana. Vivikte ekante. Vidhivat ushajana traih kramena nirmite. Vidhivat, according to the regulations, on a proper deerskin mat. Prepare oneself for the better next life. One must get out of one's so-called home. The system of Varnashma Dharma or Sanatana Dharma prescribes retirement from family encumbrances as early as possible after one has passed 50 years of age. Modern civilization is based on family comforts, the highest standard of amenities, and therefore, after retirement, one expects to live a very comfortable life in a well-furnished home decorated with fine ladies and children, without any desire to get out of such a comfortable home. High government officers and ministers stick to their prized posts until death, and they neither dream nor desire to get out of homely comforts. Bound by such hallucinations, materialistic men prepare various plans for a still more comfortable life. But suddenly, cruel death comes without mercy and takes away the great plan maker against his desire, forcing him to give up the present body for another body. Such a plan maker is thus forced to accept another body in one of the 8,400,000 species of life according to the fruits of the work he has performed. In the next life, persons who are too much attached to family comforts are generally awarded lower species of life on account of sinful acts performed during a long duration of sinful life, and thus all the energy of human life is spoiled. We will come to this in the third canto. In order to be saved from the danger of spoiling the human form of life and being attached to unreal things, one must take warning of death at the age of 50, if not earlier. The principle is that one should take it for granted that the death warning is already there, even prior to the attainment of 50 years of age, and thus, at any stage of life, one should prepare himself for a better next life. The system of the Sanatana Dharma institution is so made that the follower is trained for the better next life, without any chance that the human life will be spoiled. The holy places all over the world are meant for the residential purposes of retired persons getting ready for a better next life. Intelligent persons must go there at the end of life, or for that matter, after 50 years of age, to live a life of spiritual regeneration for the sake of being freed from family attachment, which is considered to be the shackle of material life. One is recommended to quit home just to get rid of material attachment, because one who sticks to family life until death cannot get rid of material attachment. And as long as one is materially attached, one cannot understand spiritual freedom. One should not, however, become self-complacent simply by leaving home or by creating another home at the holy place, either lawfully or unlawfully. Many persons leave home and go to such holy places, but due to bad association, again become family men by illicit connection with the opposite sex. The illusory energy of matter is so strong that one is apt to be under such illusion at every stage of life, even after quitting one's happy home. Therefore, it is essential that one practice self-control by celibacy without the least desire for sex indulgence. For a man desiring to improve the condition of his existence, sex indulgence is considered suicidal or even worse. Therefore, to live apart from family life means to become self-controlled in regard to all sense desires, especially sex desires. The method is that one should have a duly sanctified sitting place made of straw, deer skin, and carpet, and thus sitting on it, one should chant the holy name of the Lord without offense as prescribed above. The whole process is to drag the mind from material engagements and fix it on the lotus feet of the Lord. This simple process alone will help one advance to the highest stage of spiritual success. 17. Abhyasen manasa shuddham trivrit brahmaksharam param mano yache jitashvaso brahmabijam avismaran. After sitting in the above manner, make the mind remember the three transcendental letters A, U, Ma. This refers to Om. And by regulating the breathing process, control the mind so as not to forget the transcendental seed. Japagarbham pranayamam vaktum japyamaha. So there is now the process of Ashtanga Yoga is a very detailed science. It's a very detailed science. So there is a certain type of chanting by executing which one's breathing is regulated. So in this verse, Sukadeva Goswami is talking about that which is meant to be chanted in japa. Trivrit brahmaksharam, trivrit tribhir aksharadibhir, vartitam gratitam brahmaksharam pranavam, manasabhivir avartayet. One should recite Om in the mind. Manasendriya pratyaharam vaktum pranayamena mano niyamanaha. Aha. In that way, the mind should be controlled. Mano yached vashikurya. Brahmabijam pranavam avismaraneva chitashvasasam. So one should control one's breathing without forgetting that seed of spiritual realization known as pranava, omkara. Iti pranayama chaturtha. This is the fourth stage of Ashtanga Yoga. Pranayama. Pranayama bahulyena eva prathamam mano yakchet. Nischali kurya. In that way, the mind becomes fixed. The mind is not shaking anymore. Brahma Bijam, the absolute seed or the transcendental seed refers to Pranava, Omkara. Omkara or the Pranava is the seed of transcendental realization, and it is composed of three transcendental letters: Akara, Ukara, Makara, or Arama, Urama, Marama. The letter A, U, and Ma. Om. Chanting it within the mind in conjunction with the breathing process is a transcendental mechanical way of getting into trance devised by great experienced mystics. In this way, one is able to bring one's materially absorbed mind under control and change the habit of the mind. The mind is not to be killed. Mind or desire cannot be stopped. But to develop a desire to function for spiritual realization, one has to change the quality of engagement by the mind. The mind is the pivot of the active sense organs. And as such, if the quality of thinking, feeling, and willing is changed, naturally the quality of actions by the instrumental senses will also change. Omkara is the seed of all transcendental sound, and it is only the transcendental sound which can bring about the desired change of the mind and the senses. Even a mentally deranged man can be cured by treatment of transcendental sound. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Pranava Omkara has been accepted as the direct literal representation of the Supreme Absolute Truth. One who is not able to chant directly the holy name of the Lord as recommended above can easily chant the Pranava Omkara. This Omkara is a note of address such as, O my Lord, just as Om Hari Om means, O my Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As we have explained before, the Lord's holy name is identical with the Lord himself. So also is Omkara. But persons who are unable to realize the transcendental personal form or name of the Lord on account of their imperfect senses, in other words, the neophytes, are trained in the practice of self-realization by this mechanical process of regulating the breathing function and simultaneously repeating the pranava omkara within the mind. As we have several times expressed, since the transcendental name, form, attributes, pastimes, etc. of the personality of Godhead are impossible to understand with the present material senses, it is necessary that through the mind, the center of sensual activities, such transcendental realization be set into motion. The devotees directly fix their minds on the person of the absolute truth. But one who is unable to accommodate such personal features of the absolute is disciplined in impersonality to train the mind to make further progress. So, in this indirect process, one first moves towards attainment of Brahman realization. Then, afterwards, one engages in other processes by which one attains Paramatma realization, after which one executes other processes by which one attains Bhagavan realization. It should be also noted that chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra includes the benefits of chanting the pranava omkara. Om itself, as Padma Purana explains, Om is a combination of the letter A, the letter U, the letter Ma. And the letter A uh, refers to Lord Vishnu, the letter U refers to Shri, and the letter Ma refers to the living entity as a servant of Sri Vishnu. In other scriptures, it is pointed out that letter A refers to Lord Krishna, the letter U refers to Radharani, and the letter Ma indicates that the living entity is an eternal servant of Radha Krishna. So when we chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, while remembering that Hare is an address to Srimati Radharani, and Krishna and Ram are both addresses to Lord Krishna, then we understand that we are their eternal servants. So the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra includes the chanting of Om. Okay, I'll stop with this. Anshakalpatarubhyasya Vipasindukhyavacha Paridanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha.